Hi guys, it's me, Chaz HD, and welcome to the qualifying watch along for qualifying beginning in just under 30 minutes time here in Montreal for the 2022 Canadian Grand Prix. Hopefully you guys are doing well, and hopefully because it is wet, hopefully you're as excited as me for what is going to be, I think, a very exciting qualifying session here tonight. Obviously, might be afternoon or even morning, wherever you are in the world. Hopefully, no matter where you are, hopefully having a good day, and hopefully with me you'll be watching along qualifying. If you can't watch the session though and only watch or listen to my stream, then I'll keep you up to date with everything that goes on. Yeah, I think we're in for a very exciting qualifying session. As we've seen, I think 95% of the time in Formula 1 history, when it rains, we get exciting results, action, whatever you want to call it. It's always exciting, and qualifying does tend to be most of the time pretty exciting as well. So yeah, I think we're in for a good session, and because of the quality of drivers we have on the grid, it's going to be very interesting to see, especially from the midfield teams with the certain drivers they have. You know, your Alonso's at Alpine, Vettel at Aston Martin, Hamilton and Russell at Mercedes. I know people may say, oh, midfield team, are they really a midfield team? Yeah, they are a midfield team at this point. Obviously, you got Gasly as well down there. Obviously, Norris and Ricciardo. So I think, yeah, we've got very, very high-quality grid for this qualifying session. And in the wet, I think we should see absolutely some spectacular performances in Montreal. And hopefully it can be as exciting as it was last time it rained in qualifying in Canada. That was back in 2013, where Sebastian Vettel that day got pole position from Lewis Hamilton second and Valtteri Bottas in third. So yeah, let's hope we get another exciting qualifying session. But if you guys missed practice 3, obviously I did a watch along for that about an hour and a half ago that it finished. Let's get into the results of that session. They're not very representative, I have to say, the results of this session, but I'll get into it anyway. So here is the classification. Fernando Alonso ended up quickest, just ahead of Pierre Gasly second. Sebastian Vettel finished up in third. Those three especially are going to be very competitive in qualifying. Also, Ricciardo and Norris down there in 5th and 6th. Ocon was up in 4th place. Good final laps from him. And then, yeah, Ricciardo 5th, Norris 6th, and then Russell, Perez, Verstappen, and Sainz completing the top 10. And then the rest of the order, you had Bottas, Zhou, Stroll, Magnussen, and then Hamilton, Albon, Tsunoda, Schumacher, Latifi, and Charles Leclerc did 4 laps, no lap time. And if you are wondering why that is, well, if you haven't had the news so far today, Charles Leclerc will be starting tomorrow's Grand Prix from the very back of the grid. As he is now taken on a completely new power unit. So, yeah, Leclerc, I don't think will do any laps today in qualifying. I don't see the point. Also, they don't want to risk a crash because obviously that'll take money away from their, you know, the cap that they have to meet. Obviously, the budget cap, they will take money away from meeting that. Which, I mean, they're already in doubt as to whether they're going to meet it, so I don't see why you would run your car in wet conditions when you don't have to. So, yeah, Charles Leclerc and also Yuki Tsunoda as well is going to be starting from the back. So I think those two probably won't do any running. So we could see some surprises right away in Q1. Maybe a Williams getting into Q2. That would be pretty great if that did happen. We'll see, obviously, in qualifying beginning in 25 minutes' time. And I'll just get these pictures on screen. Obviously, these will be the pictures that will guide you through the watch-along today. And, yeah, I think we're in for a very exciting session. As you could see in those results, it's going to be very interesting to see who can surprise us in this session. There's plenty of people who can pull off a surprise, but, you know, who exactly pulls it off, it's going to be, again, very interesting to see who does. But we'll start by talking with the top team. So, because of Leclerc's penalty and, you know, probably the fact that he's not going to come out on track at all, that means pole position is between, I think, Max Verstappen and Carlos Sainz. Now, the Ferrari, in theory, because it has better downforce than the Red Bull still, in theory, it should be quicker than the Red Bull in the wet. But because of how good Max is and how much better Max is, I think, in the wet compared to Carlos Sainz, I think Verstappen is still the favourite for pole position. And I know I had a couple leery moments in practice earlier, but I don't think the top teams were really pushing that hard in practice 3. I think they were just trying to get a feel, really, for the conditions rather than, trying to push the car that hard in practice 3. So, yeah, I think Verstappen will be the favourite of pole position. And for Carlos Sainz, yeah, all hopes for Ferrari rest on him. If he can get pole today, then you never know with what happened. You never know with what could happen, if I can speak English, tomorrow. If he can get pole and hold Max back, and there are, a safety car or a couple virtual safety cars with Leclerc coming through the field, you never know what could happen. Leclerc could somehow find his way back in the fight with Verstappen at some point later in the Grand Prix. So, yeah, if Sainz can get pole, then that would give Ferrari some sort of hope going into the Grand Prix. Obviously, it would be great for Sainz if he got pole, because he's never had Carlos pole position in his Formula 1 career. So, yeah, would be great for him. But, yeah, Max Verstappen, I think is the favourite. He is the best wet weather driver out of the people that are going for pole. He's not the best wet weather driver on the grid, but he is the best, I think, out of, him, Sainz and Perez and Leclerc at the front of the field there. So I think Max will get pole. And Red Bull, even though I don't think in wet conditions they'll be as strong as they are in dry conditions, I think they'll still be pretty competitive. The Red Bull is not going to be that bad in the wet. So, yeah, Max Verstappen, I think, will be on pole. And then probably it'll be Carlos Sainz second, and then, say, Sergio Perez third for the top 3. I know we all would want to sit here and dream up, what could happen with Alonso and Vettel and Hamilton and, drivers like that as to what they could do in this session, given that, the rain does equal things out a bit more for the grid. But realistically, I think it will be 2 Red Bulls and a Ferrari in the top 3 on the grid. After that, though, if Leclerc does not do qualifying, it's going to be very, very close, I reckon, from 4th back to, say, 12th place on the grid. Who is, though, likely to be up the front of the midfield pack? You'd have to say Alonso and Vettel. By the looks of how their car's performing, you'd have to say their car looks to be, well, not their car, but their, the way they've been this weekend, they look to be the 2 main contenders from that midfield pack. Also Gasly, Russell to a certain extent. I mean, we haven't seen really anything special from Lewis Hamilton this weekend, but I think that's been mainly due to setup experiments rather than, them actually trying something, them actually trying to run his car in a normal way. So, yeah, we'll see with him. But, yeah, it looks as though Vettel and Alonso are going to be the 2 main protagonists at the front of the midfield. It would be great if we had, say, on the 3rd row of the grid, or even the 2nd row of the grid, Alonso and Vettel on that part of the grid. It really would be fantastic because, they're still very, very good drivers, still performing at a very high level, and obviously they've had great battles in the past, not just for race wins, but for world championships as well. So, yeah, I'm really hoping we do get a great performance from those 2 drivers especially, and would be great as well to see Pierre Gasly have a great performance today, because it would further prove his quality as a driver in Formula 1. But in terms of looking at the midfield teams, it's very hard to say who is the quickest, because I think it's kind of muddled up, because I think with certain teams that have have had high positions this weekend, I think it's kind of to do with their car, yes, but I think it's mostly to do with the driver and how they've been performing. For example, with Aston Martin with Vettel and Alpine with Alonso. I think they've got decent cars for this track, but I just don't think it's, I don't think it's mostly down to the car. I think it's definitely the drivers are, their great pace around this track is really helping their performance. So, yeah, I think that's it's going to be hard to tell with those teams just how quick they really are. But I think, in theory, in the wet, Mercedes and McLaren should be stronger. They have been losing quite a lot of straight line speed this weekend due to porpoising with Mercedes and McLaren. Obviously, they have no straight line speed, as we pointed out before. So in these conditions, McLaren should be pretty strong, and they are a possible dark horse, McLaren, for a very good result. Getting both cars in the top 7 on the grid. That really could happen today for McLaren, because if you look at practice 2 yesterday and the data from practice 2, McLaren were probably the 3rd best team in Sector 1 and Sector 2, or they were at least around, being the 3rd best team. But then Sector 3, they had absolutely no pace whatsoever. So, yeah, with the rain being around, definitely helps the lack of straight line speed, and hopefully they have a good day today. I'm really looking out for them to have a good day. And yeah, I do expect Mercedes to have a better day today than they've had earlier today and also yesterday. I don't think they'll be as poor as, they have been in practice so far. I don't see that happening. I think Russell definitely is going to be in the top 10. Lewis Hamilton, I think, will be as well. I don't think he'll be, finishing outside of the top 10. I think that would be probably one of the shocks of the season, considering the track we're at. It really, really would. So, yeah. I'm hoping that we can see Lewis Hamilton in the top 10, because at the end of the day, I want to see all of those, top drivers, or not just top drivers, but very good, great drivers that are driving for midfield teams at the moment. I want to see them, all in the top 10, because I think we could get a very exciting then Q3 towards the end of the qualifying hour. But, for the midfield, I think, like I said, I think it'll be Verstappen on pole, Sainz second, and then Sergio Perez third. And then after that, I would say, it's so hard to predict. It's so hard. I'm going to go Alonso fourth, Vettel fifth. That's my top 5. So Verstappen, Sainz, Perez, Alonso, Vettel. By the way, guys, let me know in the live chat your predictions for qualifying today, with about, just over 15 minutes to go until the session begins. Let me know, who do you think will finish in the top 5, obviously in what order. Give me even your top 10 for qualifying today, and I'll make sure to read out your comments in chat in a minute. But yeah, for me, I go Verstappen, Sainz, Perez, Alonso, Vettel. And then after that, I'm going to go Russell 6th. Hold on, wait. Will I go with Russell 6th? It's really hard between the 2 Mercedes, 2 McLarens, and Gasly after that, really. No, I'm not going to go Russell 6th. I'll go Norris 6th. Norris 6th. Russell 7th. Gasly 8th. Hamilton 9th. Ricciardo 10th. Again, it's so hard to predict. I could be so wrong by the time we get to qualifying. So, yeah. Give me your best predictions in the chat, because I honestly don't have a Scooby-Doo. Probably what's going to happen in Q2, Q3 especially. Rooksfoot is saying in chat, so Chaz, how do you think the new cars will be overtaking at this track? Will teams go all out to get the highest grid position, wet setup, and suffer tomorrow, or go dry setup and do it on track? I don't think you'll see anyone really going for a wet setup, because I think overtaking tomorrow, because of how close the field is, overtaking tomorrow is going to be definitely doable. This will probably be the best track for overtaking that we've been to since Jeddah, and that was what, 3 months ago almost. Yeah, so overtaking will be very possible here. So yeah, I think if you go for a wet setup today, you're going to get absolutely murdered tomorrow. I'm just trying to think. I think Valtteri. No, he didn't. I was going to say Valtteri Bottas last time we had a wet qualifying here. Valtteri Bottas qualified surprisingly third in 2013 with a very slow Williams and dropped back massively. That wasn't actually down to a wet setup. I think that was down to just the Williams car being really slow. But we have seen in the past around tracks where, there are some straights that if there's a wet qualifying, if you set your car up with a wet setup, you end up getting absolutely destroyed on race day. So I don't think that's going to happen. It would be a mistake for sure if you went with a full wet or mostly wet setup. And yeah, I think overtaking tomorrow will be definitely possible. I think we'll get a good Grand Prix. Not sure if it'll be a great Grand Prix. Depends really on how mixed up the grid is and how mixed up it is also at the end of the first lap. But I think with the way this track is, if we could get a pretty good race around Barcelona, I don't see why we can't get one around this circuit. And yeah, there's going to be plenty of chances to overtake around this track. So yeah, I think it'll definitely be possible. But like I was saying, guys, for everyone watching, make sure to comment right now in the live chat letting me know what your predictions are for qualifying today. You can give me a top 5 if you want, or a top 10. It's your choice, but at least give me a top 5 in the chat. Just want to quickly say, don't forget, guys, I will be live tomorrow twice. Firstly, for the race preview at 4 p.m. UK time. That's 3 hours before the race starts. And then half an hour before the race starts at 6:30 p.m. UK time, I will be live for the race watch-along. And obviously, we'll do the race, watch along that. And obviously, I'll commentate through it. And then the race reaction will be part of the race watch-along. And I'll get straight into the race reaction as soon as the race has finished. So, and also what I'm probably going to do is when the race finishes, probably rename the stream Race Reaction, so people know what it is, once the race is finished. So yeah, make sure to come along to that stream, or those 2 streams tomorrow, and I'll be live also on Monday at 8 p.m. UK time to review any key incidents from the Canadian Grand Prix. So if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, and also don't forget for everyone watching to smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. And don't forget as well to follow me on Twitter at ChazHD5. Now, let me get into some predictions. John Hawking says Max, Perez, Sainz, Alonso, Russell. Dylan Forrestal says Verstappen, Alonso, Perez, Vettel, Sainz. You put Vettel twice there. Wait, have you? Verstappen, Alonso, Perez, Vettel. Yeah, you have. Maybe you mean, I don't know, maybe you mean Ricciardo or someone. I don't know. But you've put, Verstappen, Alonso, Perez, Vettel, Sainz, and then Russell, Norris, Hamilton, Gasly. So that's your prediction. But yeah, if you can let me know who one of the Vettels is, then that'd be great. Brabham Oz says Sainz, Verstappen, Russell, Perez, Alonso. Got McDonald says Russell, Perez, Sainz, Max, Hamilton, Alonso. McLaren F1 Race says Perez, Verstappen, Russell, Alonso, Sainz. Gaming and Tech Geek says Ricciardo on pole. I know a certain Australian will be very happy with that. Sainz second, and then Alonso, Verstappen, Vettel, Norris, Perez, Hamilton, Russell. Frank says Verham bot for the classic. Yeah. Aline says Vettel, Stroll, Alonso, Ocon, Hamilton. And Josh says Verstappen, Sainz, Perez, Vettel, and Russell. So a lot of you seem to be a bit split on on who's getting pole, because I've seen one for Russell in there. I think a couple for Sainz, a couple for Max. I think one there for Alonso, I think, as well. So, yeah, seems to be pretty split between you guys in the chat. But like I said, for anyone who hasn't posted a prediction in the chat, then make sure to do so in the next few minutes. Harrison, he says, Dylan says, Vettel number 2 is Ricardo. Right, cheers for that. Harrison K comes up with their prediction, which is Sainz, Max, Perez, Alonso, Russell, Sainz. Then gets that's the top 5, and then says Sainz then gets absolutely demolished tomorrow. It is possible. I mean, Carlos is a good driver, but he's not had a great season, has he? So, yeah, hopefully we can see a good performance today. I mean, I know people, from Baku might say, but, he had an engine problem, nothing you could do about that. But at the end of the day, he wasn't heading for anything that special that weekend. I mean, he was heading for pole position with 1 run to go in qualifying last week, and then hit the wall, I think, slightly, lost a few tenths of a second, and ended up bottling his final attempt, and that is what led him to go from 1st down to 4th by the end of the session. And then in the race, he only retired after 7 or 8 laps, but if you look at his pace compared to his teammate and Verstappen and Perez, he was miles away. He was like half a second off the pace almost, off those drivers. So yeah, Carlos is still not really in great form. I don't think we've seen this season, maybe except for Monaco, I don't think we've seen so far this season a weekend, or not just a weekend, but 2 weekends in a row where Sainz has been, properly good. I just don't think we've seen that yet. Music Monster Man says Max, Leclerc, Carlos. Is it still a wet track? Asks Scott. Yeah. I mean, there's still umbrellas up, so I'd assume so. Bravamos, another prediction. Who is going to be the first to hit the wall of champions? Well, probably Nicholas Latifi or Lance Stroll. I know it's harsh to say that because obviously they're both Canadian, but yeah. Given how qualifying has gone this season, I don't think that is, if that does happen, I don't think that would be that big of a surprise, unfortunately. But we're only a few minutes away now, as I can see Valtteri Bottas getting into his Alfa Romeo. Hopefully can replicate what he did here 9 years ago in the wet. Yeah, we're just a few minutes away now from qualifying beginning in Montreal. Not very warm, definitely a lot colder than yesterday, about 15 degrees colder than yesterday. Yesterday was like 26 degrees air temperature. Now it's about, 11, 12 degrees air temperature. So, yeah, very cold and wet day at the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. But now I will get into some final stats before we get into qualifying here. So let's start with Red Bull. Red Bull's last pole position in Canada was in that wet qualifying session in 2013 with Sebastian Vettel. Max Verstappen, his best result in qualifying here is 3rd from 2018. That weekend was actually the weekend where I think really he turned his career around and hasn't really looked back since. And Red Bull have taken pole in Canada 3 times since 2010. In, the first one, 2011, then 2012 and 2013 for the Red Bull team. For Ferrari, they took pole position at the last Canadian Grand Prix in 2019 with Sebastian Vettel. A very good lap it was that day, and also took the last 2 pole positions here in Canada. Charles Leclerc, his best qualifying result in Canada is 3rd from 2019. Let's hope he decides to do qualifying, but I don't really see the point in him doing so. And Ferrari have taken pole in Canada twice since 2010. Like I said, it was 2018 and 19, both with Sebastian Vettel. And then for Mercedes, even though they are struggling, they do have a good record here. Their last pole position in Canada was in 2017 with Lewis Hamilton. Obviously, Hamilton, great record here in Canada. He has 6 pole positions at the Canadian Grand Prix. 3 of them were for McLaren, and 3 of them have been for Mercedes. And then Mercedes have taken pole 4 times in Canada since 2010. Those poles being 2014, 15, 16, and 17. And then finally, we'll go to Aston Martin and come to Sebastian Vettel, who does have historically a fantastic record here in Montreal. 5 pole positions at the Canadian Grand Prix. I think second, got to be up in the top 3 for the most pole positions here in Montreal, and has also qualified in the top 3 at every Canadian Grand Prix since 2010, except for 2015. And the only reason that year he didn't qualify in the top 3 when he was expected to that weekend was because of an engine problem. So that's what saw him end up in 17th place. Still came through though to finish 5th in the race. So this is a great track for Sebastian, and in these conditions, definitely look out for Sebastian Vettel. And a quick reminder of the championship standings going into this Grand Prix. So in the driver's standings, Max Verstappen leading Sergio Perez by 21 points. Charles Leclerc 34 points behind. And like I've been saying many times this weekend, if Verstappen does win and Leclerc cannot get a podium from where he starts the race from, then I think the championship is dead and buried. George Russell is 4th. And then you've got Carlos Sainz 5th, and then Lewis Hamilton 6th, Norris 7th, Bottas 8th, Ocon 9th, and Pierre Gasly in 10th position. And then in the Constructors' Championship, effectively, I think Red Bull have already got things sealed in the Constructors' Championship. Ferrari 80 points behind in 2nd. Mercedes only 20... are they 28 points behind? No, they're 38 points behind in the Constructors' Championship. So not too far behind Mercedes. Are they behind the Ferrari team? McLaren are 4th. Alpine 18 points behind in 5th, with Alfa Romeo 6th, AlphaTauri 7th, Haas 8th, Aston Martin 9th, and Williams in 10th. Make sure to remember those championship standings when we are in qualifying, because some important results could affect these standings once the race finishes tomorrow as well. So obviously there is not half an hour to go until qualifying. Let me get rid of all of this. And we are just now moments away from the start of qualifying, as there appears to be sunshine in the distance. So maybe it will dry out soon enough. But Q1. And still 12 degrees air temperature, 12 degrees Celsius at the moment. As just trying to get things ready. So obviously it'll be Q1 to begin with. And Q1 is a 18-minute long session. I'll make sure to sync up the timer at the 17-minute mark. And I'll just get that dotted line out that I normally do. Illustrate where the drop zone is. Let me just illustrate it a bit better. So you can see that. Well, maybe not that great. Let me resize it again. And there you go. So anyone below that dotted line by the end of Q1 will be out of qualifying. And we'll see who falls foul of the cutoff zone. Maybe this man on screen, Valtteri Bottas, who's not been that quick this weekend, has not had the greatest weekend in the world. But it does seem as though, guys, that dry weather is on its way. Because there is sunshine in the distance. So, Right, so we're just looking, and Charles Leclerc is actually in his car. Maybe he's going to do qualifying, who knows? Maybe he'll just come out for a couple installation laps to make sure the engine is running and there's no problems that come up. But surely they're not going to bother doing qualifying, because I just don't see the sense in it, especially considering if they have a massive crash, it could cost them a lot of money towards the budget cap. And Q1 will be underway in I think, about 30 seconds time. And when it is, I'll let you know as we're looking at Lance Stroll in his car. Had a decent weekend so far, Stroll. He had a good not Q1, a good practice one where he was actually quicker than Vettel, but then in practice 2, dropped off the pace a bit. Hopefully, in these conditions, we know he can be good in these conditions, Stroll. Hopefully he can get a good result, because if he was to get in the top 10 this weekend, that'd be very good, especially for the home fans. And remember, he does have a grandstand named after him. As we've got cars now on the exit of the pit lane, 2 Alfa Romeos, and the session is green, and we are underway in qualifying, and it is still pretty wet. We've got a lot of full wet tyres out there, and it looks as though it has rained quite a bit since we saw the cars last in practice 3. But how soon will it be? If it's not raining that hard, how soon will it be until we see some intermediate tyres? As Red Bull here. Oh no. Gonna almost crash into the... Perez almost crashed into the pit wall there. Thank God he didn't do that, as he was struggling to get out of his garage. Obviously, the car's pretty pathetic at turning at such a slow speed. As he now comes out onto track. And yeah, everyone on the full wet tyre. And there you go. So 17 minutes to go in Q1. As, yeah, everyone on wet tyres. The only cars in the pits, 2 Ferraris and 2 Williamses at the moment. And, yeah, just looking at Max Verstappen, who's coming round to the hairpin. Gotta say, it looks very wet. Almost looks wetter than when we started practice 3. So conditions are not great here. But it does seem as though the rain has stopped. Or at least, if it is falling, it's barely falling compared to what it was like. Now cars coming into the final chicane start to back up. And the 2 Alfa Romeos have begun their first flying laps in qualifying. And so is Lewis Hamilton. And here comes Max Verstappen. Let's see what he can do with his first flying lap. We can't even see the man leading the championship. But here he comes down the start-finish line and into turn 1. This is where he spun earlier in practice 3, and yeah, gets through just about fine. Slight loss of traction on the exit, but we've seen that pretty much with everyone, so that's not really that bad. And now comes through turn 3 and 4, and into now 5 and 6. He's done a 28.6 for first sector, which is not great, I have to say. I mean, Ocon has gone quite a bit slower in his first sector, but I think the first sector times were actually a bit better than that in practice 3, if I remember correctly. As Verstappen, through turn 8 and 9, hugs the turn 9 curb a bit too much. And that'll cause him not to really have a great momentum through those corners, as he's done a decent middle sector, Verstappen. And now exits the turn 10 hairpin. And traction looked good enough as he now powers his way down to the final chicane. And into the final chicane he comes, bumps over the first one, bit over the second one, bit clumsy, but it might still be good enough to go quickest as he comes to the line, Max Verstappen. And no, he goes second, but it is Russell currently in P1 as Esteban Ocon goes third. Max Verstappen is second for Red Bull, as we're looking at Perez, who is at the hairpin. Sebastian Vettel goes straight away into third place, and then Ocon is fourth, and then Zhou is up to fifth place, or he was, because now Lance Stroll is up to P5, as Sergio Perez is about to complete his first timed run. We'll see what he does with this lap. But Perez comes across the line and goes sixth. Fernando Alonso goes up to second for Alpine, as Leclerc. I can't even see where Leclerc is. He's now coming into the final chicane. I assume is he gonna start another lap, or I'm not sure. I think maybe he's just doing a lap so he can satisfy the FIA or something. But he does go 18th. But it's Russell, Alonso, or no, Hamilton now goes second for Mercedes. So good early pace from the Silver Arrows, as Max Verstappen does another lap and now goes quickest by 8.5 tenths onto a 1:35.8. Fernando Alonso, though, there's a purple first sector as Esteban Ocon goes second and only a tenth of a second slower than Verstappen. As just need to update the rest of the top 10. I noticed that Yuki Tsunoda is up to 8th. Well, he was. Now Lando Norris is up to 6th place, as Kevin Magnussen goes 3rd for the Haas F1 team. Remember, they don't have that many sets of wet tyres, as Alonso's done a purple middle sector, but he's going very slowly. So he must have made a mistake on that. Yeah, he has. He must have made a mistake or something. I didn't quite see that. But now Tsunoda goes 3rd for Alpha Tauri. So it's Verstappen, Ocon, Tsunoda top 3. Carlos Sainz comes to the line and goes fastest by a couple hundredths of a second. So Carlos Sainz bangs in a good first lap here in Q1. As Russell does come to the line eventually through the spray and goes quickest by 8 tenths of a second. What a brilliant lap there for Russell. So Russell up to first, and then it's Sainz, Verstappen, Ocon, Tsunoda, your top 5. As here's Norris, tried to turn in turn 1, ran wide, and then didn't bother with turn 2, and ended up cutting turn 2 off. In comes Perez into turn 1, losing the rear end, lot of standing water on the entry to that corner, and went wide. And here's a replay of Mick Schumacher causing a bit of a splash at the final chicane and clumping the inside of the first part of the chicane a bit too hard. Kevin Magnussen, by the way, has had his time deleted for track limit violations, as Pierre Gasly goes second for Alpha Tauri, as Sergio Perez, I just noticed, goes second. Not second, goes 7th in the Red Bull. So it's Russell, Gasly, Sainz, Verstappen, Ocon, and then Tsunoda. Perez is up to 7th. Let me just see where Sainz goes with this lap. Sainz goes up to 2nd. Daniel Ricciardo has gone 7th for McLaren. So it's Ricciardo 7th, and then Perez is up to 8th place, and then it's Hamilton in 9th. Well, it was, because Zhou Guanyu is now up to 6th place. Then it's Hamilton 10th, and then Alonso 11th. Shows you how quickly things move around. Alonso was quickest a minute ago, or one of the quickest, as Ocon goes 2nd. There's Alonso 11th, and then Schumacher in 12th, and then Vettel 13th, as Lando Norris goes from 15th up to 5th place. So Lando progresses his way through the order. Alex Albon was 14th, as Kevin Magnussen now goes quickest for the Haas F1 team. So, trying to update the order as best I can, as it's moving around all the time here in Canada. So Magnussen up to first now. Mick Schumacher has gone up to 9th. So let me update that. As Daniel Ricciardo now goes 3rd. So it's moving around constantly at the minute. So it's Magnussen, Russell, Ricciardo, Ocon, Sainz, your top 5. And then Gasly, Norris, Verstappen, Perez, and Zhou. As Valtteri Bottas now goes quickest for Alfa Romeo. Let me just quickly do that. As now, I think another car's coming to the line. Yes, it is Russell, who goes almost 9/10ths quicker. Verstappen now comes to the line and goes 7/10ths quicker than Russell. So some very quick times there from the Red Bull and Mercedes, respectively. So it's Verstappen now first, Russell second, Lewis Hamilton is now up to 3rd. So we're now looking at Fernando Alonso, who's on an improved lap. Carlos Sainz is currently on a lap that would see him probably go quickest. Bravo says I'd give up trying to keep up at this point. Chaz, I'm trying my best. I'm still doing pretty well, to be honest, but yeah. Carlos Sainz is about to come to the line in a few moments' time. Fernando Alonso comes to the line and goes quickest for Alpine. So Alonso up to 1st. And Ricciardo goes 4th. Sainz now goes quickest. Surely these cars have got coming in a minute to give me a break and come in for some fuel because, yeah. So Sainz, Alonso, Verstappen, Russell, then Ricciardo is now 5th, as Charles Leclerc, currently 17th, goes 7th. He's, definitely got, as he almost spins the car going into turn 1. So it's Ricciardo 5th, Hamilton 6th. Charles Leclerc has just gone 7th for Ferrari. I've got the top 7 correct. Here's Nicholas Latifi, who's also in 20th. I have him in 20th, so that's good. And just locked up the inside front way too heavily. I had to go down the escape road. Here's a replay of Esteban Ocon going and doing a Vettel at turn 3 and 4. And locked his inside front for quite a while into that corner. Just failed to realise that he wasn't going to make it. As Kevin Magnussen goes up to 5th place. Just trying to see if I can get the rest of this order correct. Sergio Perez has only gone 13th for Red Bull. So in the drop zone right now, you've got Alex Albon, Yuki Tsunoda, Sebastian Vettel, Lance Stroll, and Nicholas Latifi. The 2 Aston Martins currently heading for an absolute disaster. So I have finally, after about, 15 minutes, feels like, got the order correct. As Valtteri Bottas now goes 6th for Alfa Romeo. Leclerc goes 7th. Zhou goes up to 10th. Russell goes 3rd. For Mercedes, and by the looks of it, the drivers are having a very fun time out there. The conditions, they might be not great, but yeah, they're having a bit of fun out there. Here's Lando Norris into turn 6, and the rear end was gonna just completely snap away, and he had to go across the grass. And here's a replay of Lando into turn 1. The problem with turn 1, there's a massive puddle on the inside of that corner, so you're having to drive like around it and deliberately miss the apex. That's why turn 1's proven to be a very hard corner. And obviously, as soon as you hit that puddle, you're going to end up spinning. But it is currently top 10. Sainz, Alonso, Russell, Verstappen, Ocon. In 5th is the Frenchman, and Mick Schumacher has gone 6th for the Haas team. And then it's Hamilton, Magnussen, Bottas, Leclerc, Ricciardo 11th, Zhou, Norris, Gasly, and now Vettel gets up to 15th. So in the drop zone, Perez in the Red Bull, and then Albon, Tsunoda, Stroll, Latifi with 3 minutes to go here in qualifying 1. As Valtteri Bottas goes 6th. Alfa Romeo seem to be actually quite quick in the wet. So, yeah, looking good for them. As Pierre Gasly surely has got to do better than 14th place. As he's got an Alfa Romeo closely following him. Don't know who it is. Probably Bottas has just completed a lap. As Nicholas Latifi goes up to 18th. Yuki Tsunoda, by the way, is in the pit, so I don't think he'll come out again. As Gasly has not improved his first sector. But now comes into turn 8. As long as he doesn't lock up, he should be fine. And he does run wide, though, and has to abort this lap, surely. That's, yeah, a big mistake at a very big time. As Lando Norris goes 9th, Kevin Magnussen goes 6th. RSF1 also seem to have a pretty good wet weather pace right now. And into turn 8, Gasly just simply understeered. And I think carried also too much speed into that corner. That's why he ran wide. As what we're looking at here, Charles Leclerc on board. As Esteban Ocon goes 2nd. Alpine also very quick in the wet here. So it's Sainz, Ocon, Alonso, Russell, Verstappen. And then Magnussen, Bottas, Schumacher, Hamilton, Norris. And then Leclerc, Ricciardo, Perez is now up to 13th. And then it is Zhou and Gasly. As Leclerc goes 2nd now for Ferrari. And coming to the line, Russell doesn't improve his lap. Max Verstappen, though, goes quickest by half a second, almost, about 5.5 tenths. As there's a yellow flag in Sector 1. If that's a bad crash, whatever it is, then it could hurt people's laps. It's a Ferrari of Sainz, so it's Verstappen, Sainz, Leclerc, Ocon, Alonso. Albon gets out of the drop zone. And then Alonso, Russell, Magnussen, Bottas. Zhou Guanyu has gone 9th for Alfa Romeo. Mick Schumacher 10th, and Hamilton 11th. Albon has gone 12th for Williams. And then it's Norris 13th, Ricciardo 14th, Perez 15th. In the drop zone with 30 seconds or less than that to go, 25 seconds now. It's Gasly, Vettel, Stroll, Latifi, Tsunoda, as Sergio Perez goes 12th. Perez just doesn't have any pace this weekend. Here comes Sebastian Vettel. Surely he can get his way out. No, he can't. 16th for Vettel. That's an absolute disaster. As Alonso goes 2nd for Alpine. Pierre Gasly crosses the line. Gasly only 16th, so Gasly... Well, Vettel, if he has enough fuel on board, can do another lap. Ricciardo goes up to 8th place. Gasly, though, is out of qualifying. So Gasly out in 16th. Where are the others? Lance Stroll is out. He's finished up in 18th. Here comes Nicholas Latifi, who's done 2 personal best sectors. And I'd be very surprised if he can get his way into Q2, but comes to the line anyway and stays 19th. So Latifi 19th. Is Sebastian Vettel on an improved lap, or is that it for Sebastian? I think and I fear that it just might be. And yeah, we're still looking at Latifi. Still no news about Sebastian Vettel, but it does seem as though that Sebastian Vettel has shockingly got knocked out in Q1. And no, he is on a new lap. Is he on a new lap? Yes, he is. Comes to the line. Can Sebastian Vettel get into Q2? No, he cannot. He ends up 17th. So, guys, this is your final finishing order in Q1. Verstappen first, and then Alonso second, Sainz third, Leclerc fourth, and the rest of the top 10. Ocon, Russell, Magnussen, Ricciardo, Bottas, and Zhou. Just about making it through. Schumacher, Hamilton, Perez, Albon, and Norris. And out in Q1 here in Canada, Pierre Gasly. Very surprisingly, Sebastian Vettel, Lance Stroll, Nicholas Latifi, and Yuki Tsunoda. So there you go, guys. That's Q1. What a surprise. Vettel getting knocked out. And that's completely destroyed my whole stat from earlier about how great he's been in qualifying here. By him, already knocked out in Q1. And I've got to say, despite him being so great this season, that is a poor performance by not just him, but the Aston Martin team overall. Because, they looked way quicker than that in practice and looked way quicker. And we thought they'd be way quicker in this Grand Prix. Canadians rooted to the back. Yeah, sad for the crowd. 18th and 19th. And, well, I mean, Stroll could probably come through from there to get a decent finish. But, yeah, I'd be surprised if he got a decent amount of points. It will make it interesting, though, tomorrow, because you're going to have at the very back AlphaTauris that are pretty quick, Aston Martins that are pretty quick, and obviously Leclerc. So there's going to be a lot of action tomorrow on the first, 15, 20 laps. It'll be a very exciting race because of the grid. Already, we have for the bottom 5 positions. Let me just quickly get another line out to illustrate where the next cutoff zone is. I'll just make it a bit bigger. There you go. So, anyone in between those two dotted lines, I'll quickly just lower that one I've just done slightly. Yeah, that's better. Anyone in between those two dotted lines at the end of Q2, obviously, will be out. I'm going to quickly mute my microphone because I need to quickly blow my nose. Right, that should be better. Yeah, so Q2 will be underway in about 2 or 3 minutes' time. And with already Vettel and Gasly out in Q1, I mean, who knows what could happen now in Q2? We could see some surprises. I mean, look at who's already in those positions from Q1. Hamilton, Perez, Norris. I mean, if those 3 were knocked out in Q2, that would be amazing. It really, really would. And just having a look to see if there's any news quickly on Twitter regarding what's gone on so far. Can't see anything at the moment. No. Can't see anything at the moment. But if I do, hold on. Leclerc, Sainz and Albon set to be investigated after the session for driving unnecessarily slowly, whilst Gasly is being looked at for failing to follow race director's instructions, cutting the chicane at turn 8. And Lance Stroll is being investigated for failing to slow for yellow flags. I mean, if he gets penalised for that, then it's not going to make a difference really to his Grand Prix, because he'll still be starting pretty much at the back. As, yeah, very big puddle as we're seeing at turn 1. And it's unable, that puddle, to drain away. The only thing that's going to clear that water up on the inside of turn 1 is literally the sun coming out. And it might come out because there is sunshine, I think, in the distance here in Montreal. If they show this wider angle that they're showing now, I think we could kind of see it. Yeah, there is brighter skies in the distance, so maybe the track will dry out later to make that a bit easier for the drivers, because turn 1 is a pretty big hazard right now. Also, it's just been announced that Charles Leclerc is already out of his car and done for the session. So, yeah, just trying to get through to Q1 there. I think was just trying to make sure he got ahead of Tsunoda, because obviously they're both starting at the back anyway, because of penalties. So, yeah, Leclerc will definitely be out. So I may as well already put him to 15th, because he'll be out. And there you go. So only 4 positions up for for people to be knocked out in. As the session has started, I'll sync up the timer in about a minute or so. As Valtteri Bottas, I think, or Zhou Guanyu, one of the two. I think it was Zhou, actually. Yeah, led them away. There's an Alpine there on intermediate tyres. I think it's Fernando Alonso, who's having, by the way, probably the best weekend of his career. I mean, you could argue Melbourne was one of them, but at least for a few years, I mean, he's been consistently in the top 5 in every session. Second, obviously, in Q1. Imagine what he could do when we get to Q3, if he can, firstly, get into the top 10 shootout. As Verstappen now joins the track. And I'll sync up the timer right now. So, yeah, 14 minutes left in Q2. And Verstappen. And, yeah, we have Alonso, Magnussen, Ocon, Schumacher, and Albon on Inters. So, going to be interesting to see how those perform. And, I mean, there is still a lot of standing water around, so it's going to be a close delta between the two. But there is a drier line forming, but it's going to be interesting to see how the Inter does. And if it performs well enough and the others stick to their wet tyres for long enough, could see those drivers who have took that risk really benefit from it. As we're looking at Lewis Hamilton, who is approaching the final chicane now. And he now begins his lap. As he says, it's definitely on the crossover. It's very close. Well, I think the team actually might be saying that to him. So, well, he's probably going to do this lap, Lewis, and then possibly, depending on others' lap times, come in for a pit stop to put on the Inters. As Lewis is now into turn 3 and 4. Looks decent so far. As Hamilton dancing his car through the walls here in Montreal. And there's a purple first sector, which is a good start. And now is heading down what would be tomorrow, the first DRS straight into turn 8. And, losing the rear end through the exit of turn 8. That would have cost him probably a couple tenths of a second. As Hamilton, for the middle sector, 56.9, which is okay. Russell does a 56.9 as well. So, yeah, not a bad first middle sector, sorry. Or lap so far for Lewis Hamilton. As I'm not sure at the moment the intermediates are quite working. As Zhou Guanyu goes first for Alfa Romeo. Now Alex Albon goes quickest on the intermediates. Not anymore, because Lewis Hamilton goes quickest on the wet tyre. Lewis Hamilton up to first position. Now Russell goes quickest by a tenth. Turn 3 incident involving Sainz noted for unsafe rejoining on the track. I'm just seeing. So Russell is now first, with Hamilton second. Alonso now on the intermediate tyres goes quickest on a 1:30.9. Very quick time there. Yellow flag in sector 2. Don't know what it's for, but Max Verstappen comes to the line. Goes second, half a second slower than Alonso. And that's what it is. It's a Williams of Alex Albon who has gone straight into the barriers at turn 6. But I don't know that he's out of the session. I think he's just trying to find reverse there. So it's Alonso first, Verstappen second. Ocon has gone third. And yet reverse is out there. That's good to see. Now Carlos Sainz goes third for the Ferrari team. Hold on. So, yeah. Alonso, Verstappen, Sainz is your top 3. And then it's Ocon in 4th. Here's a replay. And yeah, locked was outside front. Then both tyres. And just went straight in to the barriers. Only damage he'll do there is front wing as Perez. I think might have done the same damage, if not a bit more, in turn 3. Gone straight into the barriers at turn 3. Doesn't look as though it's been that big of a crash, though. So maybe he can get going again. He's on the intermediate tyres, Sergio Perez. So the intermediate tyres, I mean, they're quick, but not great grip out there still. As Perez is 8th at the moment. We've got Alex Albon in 9th. Locks his inside front and just goes straight on. His suspension might be broken from that, but if he can reverse out of there, he still might be able to get back to the pits. But, no, red flag. Red flag. Perez, I think, is out of the session. He might still get into the next part of qualifying. Well, take a miracle for that to happen. But, yeah, red flag here. Let me just quickly get up that it's a red flag. And yet Perez stuck in the barriers, stuck in neutral. He wants a push from the marshals, but they won't give him one by the looks of it. Which is obviously for him not good. I think now they might actually have a go at pushing him. So red flag with 8 minutes and... Wait, hold on. What happened there? So, the red flag came out, and they just took 40 seconds off. It started ticking again. Must have... I hope they fixed that malfunction for the future, because that was a bit mental. But, they're wheeling Verstappen, who was at the end of the pit lane, back in, by the looks of it. But, yeah, let me just quickly get this order correct. So, red flag for Perez's car. It's currently Alonso, Verstappen. For some reason, it says checkered flag next to Verstappen and Bottas's names. But we've got 8 minutes to go. So, their system has glitched, I swear. Yeah, it must have glitched because that's not right. Because we've still got 8 minutes, or should have had 8 minutes and 40 seconds to go. But the timer kept ticking, even though the red flag was out. So yeah, it's Alonso first, and then Verstappen, Sainz, Ocon, Bottas, Russell, Hamilton, Perez 8th, Albon 9th, and then Schumacher 10th. And then in the drop zone with 8 minutes to go, you've got Zhou 11th, Magnussen 12th. As yet, Perez is having to get out of his car, so that's him done. Zhou 11th, Magnussen 12th. And then Ricciardo 13th, Norris 14th, Leclerc 15th. The two McLarens, though, haven't done a time, and obviously we know that Leclerc is out. Yeah, for some reason, there's Some timing glitch or something. Don't know. Yeah, don't know what's going on, to be honest. Just trying to look through Twitter to see if there's any new news, but it's just news about Perez, which obviously we know about. They've now reset the timer for 9 minutes and 6 seconds. They've added a minute and 6 seconds. Now they need to take the checkered flag thing away from Verstappen and Bottas's name because, you know, with how the track's ramping up, that if that's a glitch or something, that could affect them if they can't go out again. But yeah, red flag for Perez's car, if anyone's wondering. We shouldn't be too far away from getting going again. I'd reckon another 5 minutes at the absolute most. So they're just showing some team radio replays on the TV broadcast to fill out the time. But very disappointing, obviously, for Perez, because still, technically, obviously, he is in the championship fight. But that, I mean, if Verstappen, you know, goes on to win in the Grand Prix, then, you know, with Perez starting low down, Leclerc low down, Verstappen could end the championship race completely, really, tomorrow. But still a while to go, and you never know, Max Verstappen could have problems himself. And yeah, I don't think there's really going to be the need for many repairs to that barrier, because he didn't go into the Tech Pro that hard, did Checo. But yeah, I said it a few minutes ago, he has had no pace this weekend. I don't know why. He's been, I mean, over a single lap, he's never been, like, super quick here, but he's never been this bad compared to whoever his teammate is. There's a replay into turn 3, and oh, that was it. He touched the white line on the far left, and I think that pulled the car, or sent the car a bit deeper, and then locked up, and then just went straight in. And yeah, I think the suspension broke slightly on his car. So yeah, bit of a simple driving error there, which obviously is not what you need at this point of the season. And then boom, into the barriers. And his session is done. And yeah, they've released the car. Here's a replay now of Alex Albon, who went into the barriers at turn 6. That definitely did not break his suspension. Probably hurt his front wing, though, so he will be fine for the rest of this session. Will Alex Albon. And I'll just quickly get the timer ready for when we get going again. So it should be, the session should resume at the 9 minute and 6 second mark. So I'll make sure to show it on screen, the timer, when I get it all synced up, which I should do pretty much straight away, as blue skies in the distance and it's on its way. But I'm not sure if, well, actually, it's pretty close now, those blue skies, so maybe it will get to the track for Q3, given this red flag. We might even, you never know, we could, with this red flag here, we could get dry conditions in Q3, and that would only suit Red Bull, I reckon. Session, the FIA have just said the session will resume at 16:43 local time, so in 4 minutes time. Is it 4 minutes time? Yeah, 4 minutes from now. So yeah, we've got plenty of time. Now they've put the timer down to 9 minutes. For some, they keep fiddling around with the timer. It's so annoying. I think they've their system, or they've messed up somehow, and now they don't even know when the session was stopped. As Perez will have to come back to the pits, and they're going to take a bit of a walk behind the grandstands to get back to the pits, as he has to walk pretty much through the forest, by the looks of it, just next to the St. Lawrence Seaway, to get back to his Red Bull garage. But yeah, sad for Perez, but that's another top driver and top car out of action now. So Leclerc obviously out of action. He is not going to do any more qualifying today, and obviously he will start from 19th tomorrow. Perez, I mean, you'd imagine will probably start 13th, 14th in tomorrow's race. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting, the start tomorrow. Especially with, because not just Perez and Leclerc. And correction, remaining session duration will be 9 minutes. Yeah, I think they just messed up the FIA as to when the session actually stopped in terms of what time it was. But what do you call it? Yeah, Perez and Leclerc, they'll have to fight their way through back through the field. Also, the Aston Martins are way quicker than 17th and 18th in dry conditions, and Gasly, I think, will be as well. So we're going to get tomorrow a very exciting first few laps. As the Ferrari there of Carlos Sainz, just waiting to come out. And it's definitely stopped raining at the Montreal track, as Lando Norris is a replay of him. And coming into the pit lane, don't know what this is about. But obviously talking about something on the radio, maybe some problem with his car, as they are doing work to his car around the side pod / rear end of his car, so maybe there was some sort of issue there for Norris. But we'll see what he can do when the session resumes. I think him and Ricciardo were actually on a lap before the red flag came out, so bit of a shame for them, but they will get another opportunity. Let me... no further investigation for Sainz for an unsafe rejoin, by the way. He is fine. That's the session about to start in a few seconds time. And, well, what I'm probably going to do, instead of trying to get it, perfectly synced up at 9 minutes, I'm going to sync it up at 8 minutes. So, yeah, I'll do that soon enough. But the session is about to get underway again. And I think everyone now will be on the intermediate tyres, because they've already been proven to be definitely the better tyre. Everyone should be on inters. G Walker says power unit problem for Norris. That is not good. Really not good, because he's looking... I mean, he hasn't done a lap so far in this session, but McLaren don't look to have that bad a pace in these conditions. As Verstappen, I think, giving himself a bit of space in front of him. Rolling very slowly. And coming out onto track now. And with the Haas behind him. So yeah, pretty much everyone except, the 2 Alpines and 2 McLarens on the track right now. Yeah, everyone will be on the inters, as I said. And there you go. So 8 minutes to go in Q2. And in the drop zone, Zhou, Magnussen, obviously Leclerc's already out, but yeah, Zhou, Magnussen, Ricciardo, and Norris, the ones to look out for. As Daniel Ricciardo is on an outlap, I will update you guys as to what is happening with Lando Norris. As Hamilton says, dry alarm is starting to appear, and yeah, it is. And yeah, with that sunshine that is coming this way to the track, I mean, if the sun starts to hit the track, there will be dry tyres in Q3. So, we'll see what happens on that front. As Hamilton is now coming down the straight towards the final chicane on his intermediate tyres, backing up a bit for his teammate. And we'll see what they can all do. As the Ferrari behind him almost overtook him there. But Carlos Sainz decided not to. As Hamilton now exits the final chicane, now begins his first proper run on an intermediate tyre. Let's see what he... this is actually George Russell on this lap. Let's have a look to see what he does here. Big splash on the inside of turn 1. The Mercedes handling pretty well in turn 1, turn 2. And now, down to turn 3, where Perez crashed. And Russell gets through there absolutely fine, as the two Alpines are on track as well now, on their outlaps. As not Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz has done a purple first sector for Ferrari, 4/10 quicker than Alonso. Verstappen, though, does a much better first sector than that, another 4/10 quicker than Sainz, so 8/10 quicker than Alonso. As now, George Russell, with this track drying out all the time, completes the middle sector, and yet he is miles quicker than Alonso. And with this track now drying out all the times are just going to get quicker and quicker from everyone. So the last to complete a lap in Q2 and Q3 will be the ones that benefit most with track position. As Magnussen goes first, Alex Albon goes second. For Williams, here comes George Russell as Max Verstappen's done a purple first and second sector. No, Lewis Hamilton crosses the line first. Let's see where Russell goes, though. Russell goes quicker himself. 1.1 seconds quicker than Lewis Hamilton. Carlos Sainz now goes quickest. Here comes Max Verstappen. Even quicker than that. 1.3 seconds quicker than the Spaniard. So it's Verstappen quickest. And then Carlos Sainz is second. Russell third. Hamilton fourth, and then I think it's Magnussen fifth, Albon sixth, as Magnussen is on yet another timed lap. As Alonso, who has dropped down to ninth, now exiting the final chicane. Let's see what he does with this lap. As Fernando heads to the line, and Fernando goes second for Alpine, purple final sector. As Sainz does a purple sector 1. It's currently Verstappen, Alonso, Sainz, Russell, Schumacher goes fifth. As Kevin Magnussen improves yet again and goes second for the Haas team. Like I said, the last to cross the line in this session and Q3 because of the improving conditions will benefit the most as Alex Albon goes fourth for Williams. There's Albon fourth and Sainz, Russell, Schumacher, Ocon eighth. Now Zhou goes fifth for Alfa Romeo. And now Russell goes second. Carlos Sainz goes quickest, but I think Max Verstappen's going to go even quicker than that. Sainz quickest on a 26.5. Verstappen quickest now on a 26.2. There's Verstappen quickest from Sainz in second, and then Russell has gone third. For Mercedes, Hamilton is now fourth. By the way, Perez and Leclerc out of action. That has really helped Mercedes here. Schumacher was fifth. Now Daniel Ricciardo goes fifth for McLaren as we're entering the final 3 minutes. Now Esteban Ocon goes fourth. Here comes Fernando Alonso. who goes third. So Alonso up to third. And Ocon in the Renault is up to... Oh, not the Renault, the Alpine is up to fifth. So it's currently Verstappen, Sainz, Alonso, Russell, Ocon. And then Hamilton, Ricciardo. And then I think Schumacher, Magnussen. And then I think it might be Zhou in 10th. We'll have a look in a moment. As we've seen the replay there, Russell splashing through turn 1. Don't really need to see that. As Lando Norris, by the way, is on track on an outlap. So it's... right, so Zhou has now improved and has gone all the way up to 4th place. Now Russell improves all the way up to 2nd for the Mercedes team. So it's Verstappen, Russell, Sainz, Alonso, Zhou. As Verstappen goes even quicker now to a 25.2. 1.1 quicker than everyone else. Hamilton is now 6th. Magnussen is now 7th. As Mick Schumacher goes 5th. For the Haas team, then it's Schumacher 5th. Then Zhou, Hamilton, Magnussen. Albon is 9th. As Ricciardo now goes 6th for McLaren. So it's Ricciardo. And now Ocon goes 6th. It's constantly moving about. Be a very exciting end here. So Ocon now 6th, Ricciardo 7th, and then Zhou, Hamilton, Magnussen. And in the drop zone, it's Albon, Bottas, Perez, Norris, Leclerc with about 90 seconds now to go. Lando is now on a lap as Valtteri Bottas gets out of the drop zone up to 5th place. And whoever, like I said, crosses the line last before the checkered flag comes out will be the one who benefits the most here. As Norris has not done a purple first sector, but that's okay. Into turn 8 and 9. Not the greatest run through there as Zhou Guanyu goes 5th for Alfa Romeo. Alfa Romeo looking very good here as Russell improves yet again in 2nd, only half a second behind Verstappen. Kevin Magnussen is up to 4th. And so it's Magnussen 4th, Zhou 5th, and Alonso, Bottas, Schumacher, Ocon. Now Schumacher goes 3rd for Haas. What a lap by Mick. And in the drop zone now with 20 seconds to go, Hamilton, Albon, Perez, Norris, and Leclerc. Ricciardo now improves all the way up to 4th as Ocon stays 10th. That is, well, if he's got another lap in him, that's not great from what do you call it, from Alex Albon. But if he's got another lap in him, he should be okay. As here comes Fernando Alonso, who goes quickest in the Alpine. And Valtteri Bottas went up there briefly. Kevin Magnussen now 5th. And they finished their laps now, Alonso, Magnussen and Bottas. Bottas currently 8th. Ahead of Zhou Guanyu. Here comes George Russell, currently 3rd. Hamilton also on a better lap. So is Albon, as Zhou goes 5th. Russell goes 2nd for Mercedes. Here comes Lewis Hamilton. Can he get into Q3? Yes, he can. He goes 4th. Here comes Alex Albon to the line. Albon misses out and is 11th. So Albon is out of Q2 as Verstappen now goes quickest. Sainz goes up to 4th. And Esteban Ocon, as Lando Norris, by the way, had some sort of problem with his car, so he is out in 14th place. Here comes Esteban Ocon, though. Can he get into Q3? Yes, he can. He goes up to 8th, and Esteban Ocon is into the top 10 shootout. So that, guys, is Q2 over and done with. Here are the drivers into the shootout. Verstappen, Alonso, Russell, Sainz, Hamilton, Mick Schumacher. Great performance by him. I know I've railed against him so hard this season, but credit where credit's due. That was a great performance there. Zhou Guanyu as well. What a performance also for Schumacher and Zhou. Both of those drivers have never raced here before, and they've gone 6th and 7th in Q2 in tricky conditions. Fantastic for the pair of them. Ocon 8th, great by him. Also great for Magnussen. Both Haases into the top 10. Daniel Ricciardo out-qualifies Norris. Not necessarily because he was quicker, but still, great job there by Ricciardo. And who knows what he'll do in Q3 as it dries up all the time here in Montreal. And knocked out in Q2, Valtteri Bottas, Alex Albon, Sergio Perez, Lando Norris, and Charles Leclerc. So that is Q2 over and done with. And yeah, with Norris now going to be starting low down, that makes things even more exciting for tomorrow's Grand Prix, as Q3 will be underway in probably 3 or 4 minutes from now. And yeah, the session, obviously 12 minutes long, and be getting underway very, very soon. But yeah, great job by the two Haases. And yeah, like I said, Mick Schumacher, what a drive by him. Also Zhou Guanyu, both of them, hopefully, now starting to really show their true qualities as drivers within Formula 1. And hopefully for Mick, he gets a decent result here. Let's see if there's anything on Twitter quickly I can tell you guys. Let's see if there's any news I can bring you whilst we're waiting for Q3 to begin. And don't think I can see any new news. Yeah. We await Q3. And, I mean, the fight for pole position, I mean, who knows who it could be between? Because, I mean, they will start the session on Inters. I'm pretty certain of that. I don't think it'll dry out enough to be on dry tyres, but we could see dry tyres in the final couple minutes of the session. And if that is, if that does happen, you never know who could be on pole. You could have Haas on pole position. You really could, because like I said, it's all about who crosses the line last, because that means you get the best grip possible out of everyone else. Obviously, you do have to also have a good car, but yeah. As here's a replay of Lewis Hamilton into turn 1. And not sure what that radio is about. Maybe just happy that he got into Q3. But yeah, this, Perez and Leclerc being, starting low on the grid for tomorrow's race, that really does help Mercedes. And Mercedes could tomorrow get podium. It is possible. Because, I mean, for Perez and Leclerc, they will be able to have the car to fight their way back through the field, but it is still going to be pretty tough. Let's not lie. Scott McDonald says Schumacher best quality ever so far. Not necessarily. He's made it through to Q3, but he has got to Q3 before in Barcelona, where I think he qualified 9th. So, yeah, let's hope for an 8th or better here for the son of God, I guess you could say. As they're just putting some new tyres on the Mercedes. Is it slick tyres? I'm sure we'll see in a moment. But when it comes to the battle for pole position, it does look as though Max Verstappen is the man for that. Just looks to have the edge over Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. And the drier it gets, the better that is for Red Bull, who have the better dry pace. But we'll see whether anyone risks a dry tyre. And, well, it's still going to be intermediate tyres on the Haases. As I think Zhou Guanyu there, just a replay of him losing the rear end on the exit turn 4 and also on the radio, probably celebrating him getting into Q3. I think that's the first time he's ever got into Q3, so great performance there from Zhou. And I think the last couple of weekends he's started to really show that he can, he has the ability to make it in Formula One, which is good. I was starting to have doubts, not going to lie. As Esteban Ocon sat in his pits as well. Great result for Alpine at the moment. And the way it's heading, they could be scoring some big points tomorrow if they get a decent position here in qualifying. And yeah, intermediate tyres for Max Verstappen. And yeah, not surprised that people are going for Inters to start with, but I think there is a chance that Haas, or one of the, Haas, Alfa Romeo, I reckon they could, if they think it's close enough to the crossover point for slicks, I reckon they could take the opportunity, because now the sun has kind of come out of the track. It's definitely much brighter now and much warmer than it was. As the session, by the way, has begun, I'll sync up the timer in about 50 seconds from now. But Q3 is underway. Who will get pole position in Montreal? It could be anyone's in this session. It truly could. But my bet is the man who is just about crawling now to the pit exit line. And now coming out of the pit lane. And it is car number 1, Max Verstappen. And if he gets pole today, then that could be the most important pole position of his season so far. As Verstappen exits turn 2 and continues on his way on this outlap. And into now turn 3 and 4. And there you go, by the way. There's the timer on screen. 11 minutes to go in qualifying. And yeah, it still looks to be intermediate conditions. But there's parts of the track where it's bone, or, there's a clear dry line. So that's what I mean. I think you could get a driver or two out there at the end. Maybe take the risk. The only thing is, on the exit of turn 10, there's a big puddle. So it's at your own risk, unfortunately. As we're looking at, I think this is Lewis Hamilton, who's about to begin his first attempt at possibly a 7th pole position in Canada. You never know what could happen here. And we know Lewis, in changeable conditions, is one of the greats of our sport. As Lewis begins his lap, so does Mr. Saturday, George Russell. And Russell now, with 10 minutes to go, is just making his way into turn 3 and 4. Hamilton already into turn 6. 24.2 for the first sector. That's a pretty good first sector. Russell, though, goes 0.3 of a second quicker. As Max Verstappen, by the way, has started his first flying lap here in qualifying. As Hamilton now exits turn 9. Slight loss of downforce on the rear end. But now makes his way to the middle sector point. And not looking too bad so far. Russell, though, is about half a second quicker than Hamilton so far on this lap, as Max Verstappen does a purple first sector for Red Bull. As Lewis Hamilton now comes into the final chicane. Let's see what Hamilton can do with this lap. And Lewis Hamilton will go initially quickest on a 1:24.3. Russell, though, comes to the line and goes quicker on a 1:24.0. Hamilton had a pretty good final sector there. It's Russell first, Hamilton second for the moment, as Kevin Magnussen goes third for the Haas team. Now, Mick Schumacher goes quicker than him. It's third and fourth for Haas. Here comes Max Verstappen. Purple sector 1, purple sector 2. Is it a purple lap? Yes, it is. By 1.3 seconds. What a lap. As Sainz comes to the line and is over a second slower. What a lap by Max. 1.1 seconds quicker than Carlos Sainz. So Sainz is up to second. And then you got Alonso in third now. So it's Alonso third, Russell fourth, Hamilton fifth, and then Schumacher, Magnussen, Ocon is eighth, with Zhou ninth. Ricciardo has just set a time in 10th, but it's very slow, so I think Ricciardo must have made a mistake. And here we go. Into turn 6. Almost spun his car completely around and got going again, so he will have another go. But can anyone get near Verstappen? What a first initial lap that was. By the way, thank you, Count Blah, for your super chat. I'll make sure to read that out before we finish. Thank you very much. As George Russell had a bit of oversteer on the exit at turn 4. So probably has another couple tenths remaining on that corner in particular. As Mick Schumacher goes second for the Haas team. Russell now... wait, hold on. Schumacher goes second. Russell is third. Lewis Hamilton now fourth. And then it's Sainz, Alonso, Magnussen, Zhou, Ocon, Ricciardo. Here comes Carlos Sainz. Sainz goes second. Only 2 tenths away from Max Verstappen. Here comes Fernando Alonso to the purple sector 1. But he goes third for Alpine. What a performance this is from Fernando Alonso. As Lewis Hamilton has backed off on his current lap. He's done didn't improve his middle sector. So currently we have Verstappen, Sainz, Alonso, Schumacher, Russell, Hamilton, Magnussen, Zhou, Ocon, and Ricciardo. Ricciardo has completed his first proper time, but it is still in 10th for him. As Russell into the final chicane he comes. George Russell now exits the final chicane. And Russell to the line. Where can he go? He doesn't improve his lap. Maybe, because of how dry it is in the final sector, maybe these intermediate tyres have gone. Maybe it's time for dries. As here comes Zhou Guanyu, who's done a personal best first sector. Not a personal best middle, though. Can he improve on 8th? As he comes out of the final corner to the line. And no, doesn't improve. And yeah, I do wonder, have they burnt out those intermediate tyres? Because, I mean, it is wet in the first sector, but after that, it's pretty much dry. There is a dry line. So, it's worth the risk. It is worth the risk, I reckon. I if this was the F1 game, for example, I definitely would be going for a set of dry tyres to take the risk of getting a pole. As 5 minutes to go now, we have some more cars on outlaps. Very quick, the drivers were who came into the pits. And now they're back out. So Verstappen, Sainz, Schumacher, Hamilton, Magnussen on outlaps. Zhou, Russell, I think are on their way back to the pits. Yeah, they are. And Alonso, Ocon and Ricciardo and Russell now in the pits. So 4.5 minutes to go. Can anyone stop Max Verstappen in his pursuit of a second world championship, as he's currently heading for a very important pole position here, as we're looking at, I think, Mick Schumacher. And yep, they put dry tyres on George Russell's car. They are going to go for it. Mercedes don't have anything to lose at this point, as we're looking at, I think Mick Schumacher, don't know what tyre he's on, I didn't actually look. No, it's Kevin Magnussen who's on the intermediate, so we'll see if that pays off for Mercedes, because not everyone is going that way. Yeah, Russell going for the soft. Surely Hamilton, if they can get Hamilton back in for a soft compound tyre, surely they should try. As Kevin Magnussen completes the first sector, and he's quicker than Verstappen. It's not a purple first sector, but it's very good, as he's currently Magnussen in 7th. And now overtakes Russell, who's just letting him through there. Max Verstappen, what a first sector he has done. 4 tenths up on his personal best. This could be an incredible last 3 minutes from him, as Magnussen at the moment looks as though he's heading possibly the 3rd on the grid for the moment. Yeah, Verstappen on a very good lap here. We'll see what Verstappen does for the middle sector. And it is 8/10 quicker than his personal best. As Magnussen into the final chicane. And very nice run from K-Mag. Obviously crashed on the exit in qualifying here last time we were here in 2019. Comes to the line and does go third. So Magnussen up to third. Here comes Max Verstappen. Can he solidify pole position here in Canada? Comes to the line and a 1:21.6. 1.1 seconds quicker as Russell has gone off on the soft tyres at turn 2 and he's broken his rear wing slightly. So I think that gamble in the first sector just might not have paid off for Russell. Let's see a replay. And yeah, turn 1 and 2 still pretty wet. And yeah, I mean, he got through turn 1 all right. Just turn 2, an absolute skating rink on that tyre. So if he had made it through that corner, he would have been fine, I think. But yeah, tough, really tough. I wish they would stop. They would stop showing replays. We get it. He crashed. We want to see what's going on, for fuck's sake. Stop showing replays of it. We don't care. Not going to make any better if you show it in slow motion. Jesus fucking Christ. Anyway, it's Verstappen, Sainz, Magnussen, Alonso, Schumacher, Russell. Ricciardo has now gone 7th for McLaren. Then it's Hamilton, Joe Ocon. So about a minute to go now. And everyone now started to go on their fastest laps as Lewis Hamilton goes 2nd for Mercedes. Just about quicker than Sainz. As Sainz, I had to back off on his lap because Verstappen just was backing up there to start his lap. So that cost Sainz a bit, but he will have one final attempt. I think they've kept Russell out there for a possible second attempt on the soft tyre. I mean, if we can go the whole lap without making a mistake, it could pay off for him. So we'll see what he does. As Lewis Hamilton, now into turn 8, he's not done a personal best first sector. As Esteban Ocon goes 9th for Alpine. And Lewis Hamilton now, no, he's not improving on this lap. And he's going to keep trying, Lewis, but I'm not sure he's going to go any quicker than his 1:22.8. As the session is now over, let's see who ends up where. As Max Verstappen, we're not seeing any sector time data for him. Now we are. Purple middle sector. Sainz, though, has done a purple first sector. What's his middle sector looking like? It's better than Max Verstappen by 0.2 of a second. Sainz, very possibly on target for pole here. Lewis Hamilton, by the way, his session is finished. He did not improve. Kevin Magnussen comes back into the pits. As Zhou goes up to 9th. Here comes Verstappen to the line. Can he get pole? He improves to a 1:21.2. Here comes Carlos Sainz, though. Can he take pole for Ferrari? Loses the rear end on the exit of the chicane. And no, he's going to miss out. He lost all the time in that final sector. He absolutely blew it. As Alonso now comes to the line. Wait, no, he's coming into the chicane now. As Esteban Ocon goes 7th for Alpine. And Alonso, can he improve on P5? Yes, he can. He goes 2nd. Alonso's up to 2nd and he's on the front row for Alpine. Ricciardo finishes up 9th. And Russell pits. So there you go. The Spaniard is back. Is truly back in Formula 1. What a lap that was by Alonso, but it is Max Verstappen on pole position by 6.5 of a second, clearly showing that he is clear of the rest of the field right there. Fernando Alonso 2nd. What a lap by Alonso. He is having an unbelievable season. Anyone talking about, coming into the season, should Alonso retire? Thankfully, they've been put away now. So yeah, what a lap by Alonso. Carlos Sainz third. Lewis Hamilton fourth. Good lap for Hamilton. Mercedes might be regretting going for the soft tyre with Russell because it did seem to be a bit too aggressive there. But great lap for Hamilton. Magnussen fifth. Mick Schumacher sixth. What a day for the Haas team. Great, by the way, by Mick Schumacher to get the result he did. Ocon is 7th, Russell 8th, Ricciardo 9th, Zhou Guanyu 10th, and then the rest of the field, Bottas, Albon, Perez, Norris, Leclerc, and then knocked down Q1, Gasly, Vettel, Stroll, Latifi, and Tsunoda. Because of penalties, though, Leclerc and Tsunoda will start at the back, so it'll be Norris 14th, and then Gasly, Vettel, Stroll, Latifi, and then Leclerc and Tsunoda at the back for the starting grid. But wow, what a session for qualifying here in Canada. Fernando Alonso is back. Thank God for that. But it wasn't enough to beat the championship leader, Max Verstappen, who is, in a fantastic position for tomorrow. And if Alonso in second can keep ahead of Carlos Sainz on the first lap, I don't see how Sainz and Ferrari can possibly get near Max Verstappen in tomorrow's Grand Prix. Driver of the day, though, has to be Fernando Alonso. What a result from him. Still proving that in the right car, if he does get one in the future, Alonso absolutely can still, get podiums, race wins, or maybe even more. Right, I'm going to quickly read out this super chat. By the way, thank you to Scott McDonald saying, thanks for the hard work, Chazzy. You're a star, bro. Have a great evening. See you tomorrow. Thank you very much for that. And thank you, by the way, all you guys for watching this stream. Just want to quickly read out the super chat by Count Blah, obviously a long-time subscriber and viewer. And I just want to quickly read this out. $10 it is, a super chat from him. And says, damn, Chaz are working overtime this weekend, I see. Yep, absolutely. Like I am every weekend, pretty much. Thanks for all the hard work, man. You've been entertaining for years now. No problem. And thank you, guys. And thank him, especially, for saying that. And what a grid we have for tomorrow. I think we're in for a great race tomorrow. With the grid we have, I mean, if we get some safety cars and some, surprises in terms of retirements and that, you never know what could happen tomorrow. I mean, we could have absolutely a surprise podium tomorrow. It really could happen. Make sure, guys, to join me tomorrow for the race watch-along. By the way, thank you, Vinster, for saying that. Thanks, Chazza and crew. We'd be lost without your best watch-along on YouTube. Thank you very much for that. Thanks as well to... I think it's Autosave and John Hawkins there. Thank you for that as well. And G Walker too. And thank you to all you guys for the support as always. But what a fantastic starting grid we have. Make sure, guys, to join me tomorrow. Firstly, for the race preview at 4 p.m. UK time, where we'll go through qualifying, look at how the session happened and just how it ended up the way it did. And also, I'll try my best to go through the data and get into, from the weekend, not just qualifying, because obviously qualifying held in wet conditions. I'll get into the data and look at, truly what could happen in the race tomorrow. That's, 4 p.m. UK time tomorrow on this channel. And then at 6:30 p.m. UK time tomorrow, I'll be live for the race watch-along for the Canadian Grand Prix, where we'll have a half an hour's build-up. Then I will cover the race. And then as soon as the race finishes, I will be going straight into my race reaction that I normally do, obviously, after a Grand Prix. Just to let you guys know, sadly, Nib will not be joining me tomorrow, my co-commentator, because in Australia it's at a poor time for him. So, pretty hard for him to follow the action in a good way. So he will be back for the British Grand Prix. So it'll be me solo tomorrow. But make sure to join me for those two streams tomorrow. Would be great to see you guys for that. And if you are new to the channel, then don't forget to subscribe and hit the notifications bell for that channel, for that content, on the channel coming up tomorrow. And as well, smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. And don't forget as well to follow me on Twitter at ChazHD5. And don't forget as well to join the Discord server. Link below in the description. Thank you guys for a very busy day here on qualifying day in Canada. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for what is going to be a very, very exciting race. And until tomorrow and next time, it has been me, ChazHD. Goodbye.